Hello YouTube, this is Frank from Architectural Aesthetics. Today in this video, I would like to talk to you about early stage concept sketching. Now speaking of concept sketching, invariably we have to talk about the myth that architects or aspiring architects have to be good at drawing. Yes, I just called this association a myth, as I do not think that there's any correlation between one's ability to draw and one's ability to design. However, I do think freehand sketching is an advantageous communication skill to have, especially in the early stages, because it is fast to produce and intuitive to understand. And I've got some of my old projects here to show you how and why I typically conduct my sketches. Now, the first project I would like to show you is the final project of my first year undergrad studio course, and my instructor at the time was Ante, whom I believe was in charge of designing the curriculum for us first year students. Now, aside from architectural practice, Ante also does sculpting and art installation, and because of his artistic background, our curriculum was very unconventional, and for the final project, we were asked to pick a famous landmark in Toronto and shoot a maximum 3 minutes video about this building. Now, my building of choice was the Leslie Aldan Pharmaceutical Building, located on the campus of U of T. Now, the Leslie Dan building was pretty difficult to shoot at because the majority of the building is denied access to anyone who isn't in the program. So my solution was to come up with a narrative to associate the exterior appearance of the building with the success story of the patron of the building, Leslie Dan, who is a Jewish World War survivor who later became self-made pharmaceutical tycoon. And honestly guys, what made the project was my cameraman Kenji Chen. At that point, I was pretty much clueless about video making, and to demonstrate how ignorant I was, I had footages from several devices, including my old Leica camera which can only shoot in 720p, and I got Kenji's Nikon and my classmate's iPhone 6, which both support Full HD. I didn't know Premiere Pro can interpolate footages of different screen resolutions into one sequence, and I obviously didn't understand the night and day difference between 720 and 1080p. So no matter how hard Kenji tried to convince me, I adamantly insisted all the footages to be interpolated at 720p to conform to the crappy bottom line footages of my Leica. And to get back to our topic of early sketching, to communicate with Kenji, I prepared a series of storyboards or thumbnail sketches, as you can see on the screen here, and these storyboards turned out to be super helpful as he was able to intuitively grasp which lens to use, where to position the camera, and the final product turned out to be very satisfying. If you're interested, I'll be linking that video down in the description. After that, we got some video production commissions such as product reviews, but nothing really came to fruition because both of us were still in school at that time. The second project I would like to share with you guys is a meditation camp proposal. For this particular project, my partner and I studied and took inspiration from the traditional A-frame houses, and for the prototype, I did a quick axonometric sketch with my iPad Pro, and it proved to be instrumental in the crystallization of our final form. And speaking of axonometric sketch, I personally find axonometric to be most intuitive to work with in the early concept sketching phase. I know that most of us prefer drawing and viewing perspective images because that's how our eyes normally see things. However, in the early design stage, when we don't have a concrete form yet, worrying about perspective will only slow us down and clog up the design process, whereas working in axonometric facilitates the design process because all the parallel lines stay parallel, and we don't have to spend time trying to converge all of them to vanishing points. Though an exception would be if you are an industrial designer who's designing something small and simple, then having a perspective sketch can help you communicate more effectively. And the last project is the virtual reality monumental architecture project we have seen in the past couple of videos. For the main render, I wanted to get a shot that is emotional and dramatic. However, because of the lack of context, I had very little to work with, so I just kept putting it off because I didn't know where to start. Eventually, what I ended up doing was I selected a view from the 3D model, exported the line works as an image, and just started doodling away on the image while listening to audiobook in the background. And I found myself to be uninhibited because there is really no stake in creating a sketch. So a sky composition here, a sand dune there, after around 40 minutes, albeit it's still a very crude sketch, I got something I could work with, and with the intention of replicating the mood of the sketch, I set up the lighting and material accordingly, and this is the final render output I got. Aside from my professional work, I also do planning sketches when it comes to fine art projects. For my Monuments in Watercolor series, there were 3 imaginary illustrations expressing my architectural fantasies regarding the pyramid, the ziggurat, and the Temple Erechteum respectively. And for these 3 illustrations, I also relied heavily on prior planning sketches to help me work out the camera angle and the overall composition. So that's it, guys. That's a very short video on how I conduct my early sketches. Again, drawing is not required at all for a good designer. It's just a personal hobby of mine. And I hope you found this video to be interesting. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see all of you next week. Bye bye.